That's Cody Carpentier on with Chopin Bulldog yesterday. On wide receiver, KC Concepcion, who's one of the guys we'll be talking a lot about and have talked a lot about this spring. He was really good. You want to check that out? Find it on demand, WGR550.com. And the Odyssey app. Good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe here on a warmer Friday that's also really rainy. Let's get that snow melted. Get some sun on the grass. Get rid of the mud. Let's get to summer. It's February. You just need to go somewhere warm, right? To go somewhere warm for a week. Everybody needs that at least once. Carl Jones now on the Wester hotline from Channel 4 WIVB. Carl, have you gotten away? Have you gotten anywhere warm in the last couple months?
Unfortunately, I haven't, but I am going to Vietnam in like a month, so I'm
really?
going to save my money up. Yeah, I'm going to be out there for like 2 weeks, so I'm going to get enough warm weather and that trip over to that part of the world.
Is that a trip? Is that like what kind of trip is that?
My fiance's from there, so we're going back to see her good people and see that part of the world, so I'm excited.
Awesome. That's awesome. Next month you're going?
Yeah, it'll be, everything's running into each other. It'll be right before the draft,
How long a flight is that?
It's so long that I don't want to know. Like, I just told them I'm going to show up to the airport and just hopefully wake up in Vietnam.
All right, cool. Well, that'll be fun. Carl on the Wester hotline at Jones11_ on Twitter if you want to follow him there. A lot of good stuff on the Bills, of course, and all things football. Are you following the Olympics a lot? Like, how much are you into the Winter Olympics?
It's funny because I'm a Summer Olympics guy through and through. Love track and field. Did it as a kid. Obviously love hoops. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really like the Winter Olympics until I moved here, and then I saw the enthusiasm from everybody. So, yeah, I'm tapped into the hockey. I don't know what I'm looking at with luge, but I'm watching it. The sport that's similar to it where they're face forced, I'm watching that too. I don't know what's going on, but I like it.
Yeah, that's the one sport that we've talked about that's the one I wouldn't want to try. Like, just too fast, feels like I'd fall off, dangerous, right? Whereas, skiing, I'll ski once in a while. So, yeah, there's a lot of sports that I feel like a lot of people haven't tried before, though, or had never even heard of until the week got rolling. So, anyways.
I'm just confused because I don't know how you find out you're good at luge. Like, how do you accidentally stumble into that?
Right. How do you practice it, and how do you right. The timing of it, like how often do you not crash into walls, I guess. But anyways, Carl on the Wester hotline. So, Carl, we spent a lot of time today on the veterans of the offseason. We'll get to the draft. We still have about 2 months, and I do want to get to that a little bit with you. But in terms of, big ideas, if the Bills were to make a splash move, there are tons of guys that you could look at, whether that's in the trade market. We've Max Crosby rumors all over the place. Free agency, you could look at Trey Hendrickson, or on offense with Alec Pierce or Mike Evans. Do you have one big idea that you like more than others, whether that's in the trade market or free agency?
I am a big fan of trading some capital to go get a relatively youngish receiver, whether that is the Brian Thomas Jr.'s of the world, the two guys that are in the AFC East, Waddle or Garrett Wilson. The Marvin Harrison one is intriguing to me. I'm an Ohio State guy, so I should be biased on Marv, but over the last 2 years, I think I'm soured on him a little bit. But I think that I will be in favor of that. And listen, this is the show to talk about wide receivers. You guys know the benefits of getting a chief receiver and how it helps out with the salary cap and the long-term ramifications of that. It's just the one thing with free agency, if you don't take the trade route, you're overpaying. And usually, my adage is, good players don't get the free agency, especially good wide receivers. I would still be shocked if Alec Pierce hits the open market. I still think that the Colts are going to figure that out. And whether that's Michael Pittman hitting the market, that's a different discussion. Mm-hmm. But even if he does, a caliber player at that age of Alec Pierce rarely hits the market. So if he does, he's going to get a price tag that I'm sure a lot of Bills fans are going to be like, well, we like him, but not at that number.
Right. What do you think has gone wrong for Harrison Jr. in Arizona? Because he was – it's tough to live up to it, right? He had – this guy's a surefire Hall of Famer before he had played a snap in the league. And his dad, I think, helped that along because of his reputation. He's not been terrible, but kind of like Brian Thomas Jr., I think, in Jacksonville. People were just expecting a little bit more in year 2, and it didn't happen. So, I don't know. When you watch him, what do you think the problem has really been?
When I watched him at Ohio State, he was refined for his size. and he had good ball skills, and he played strong for the competition that he faced. But now that he's in the NFL, I don't know if he has a calling card or anything that he can hang his hat on when things get tough. Like, for example, the guy who got drafted right behind him, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors has like 10 rockets up his behind. Like, that's how fast he plays. He's super explosive. Is Marv a guy who's going to be this technician on the outside? He hasn't shown that. He doesn't have great play strength, which I think kind of hurts for someone his size. Like, you see someone who's 6'3", 200 plus, you're like, oh wow, he's some strong receiver on the outside, and that's not really his game. So I'm not out on Marv, but I think the generational building that I'm so excited about, I think hasn't come to fruition for that reason.
Yeah. What about on defense? What if there's a splash move there? Hendrickson in free agency, Crosby at edge rusher. Are any of those ideas to you good ideas for the Bills, or would you rather see them address that for cheap in the draft at some point?
Once again, I think you're just going to have to, especially in the case of Crosby, because I think there's going to be people for his services. Despite the injuries over the last 2 years, you're going to have to give up a 1 and probably like a 4 if I had to guess. I know the Raiders said, like, hey, we want what Micah Parsons got. Relax. You're not getting that. He's been hurt the last 2 years, and he's just not Micah Parsons, like, quite frankly. So if the Bills were comfortable giving up that and fitting that salary cap under their books, I would be for it. I do see some guys, like, probably a tier or two below them that I like, whether that's a Boye Mafe, whether that's a Dafe Owe, and once again, 26-year-old edge rushers that hit the market. Remember how we all felt about Milton Williams last year? And we were like, whoa, how in the world did he get $100 million? Mm-hmm. We're going to see some sticker prices for those two guys where it's like, you know what? We wanted to improve off the edge. I don't know if it was at that price. So if you're the Bills, I think you're going to have to pick whether it's edge or wide receiver, have a big-ticket idea, whether it's via trade or free agency. And then the other one, you're going to have to use – your scouting department is going to have to find some guys who outperform their contract at a bargain. Because at the end of the day, it is really hard to build your team through free agency, as you guys know.
No,
so you're going to have to find some value, whether that is at edge or wide receiver.
Definitely. It is a place, though, where once in a while you can get that one star-level player that they did with Vaughn, right? But that's 4 years ago now, and they haven't really done that. They've done the middle-tier free agency since then, and that's where, like, I do like the Hendrickson idea because I do think he's that caliber of player. And the good news about him versus, like, if you have to trade for Crosby is I can have Hendrickson and also whoever my first-round pick is, where, I don't know, like, the Crosby idea to me is I'm paying him a ton of money. That's probably most of what I'm going to use that for in the offseason. And I'm also probably not spending my first-round pick. So, like, to me, there's a big difference between Hendrickson and Crosby just because of that.
I agree. And the thing that with Hendrickson, because he's a bit older, he's not going to command a longer deal. Like, he's probably going to get a 3-year deal, and it's probably going to really and truly be a 2-year deal with the fake money on the 3rd year. So I think Hendrickson would be much better in terms of your cap sheet. And then Crosby, I know his play deteriorated a little bit last year, but that was a putrid Raiders team, and you guys know how that works when it's December 15th, and I have no help on my D-line, and I'm getting triple teamed every play.
Carl Jones with us on the Wester hotline from Channel 4 here in Buffalo. In the secondary, quickly before we get to some draft stuff, there have been some ideas floated out there, like Budda Baker is a name that some talk about. I don't know if he'll actually even be a real idea for anyone. There are reports that the Dolphins will try to move Minkah Fitzpatrick. And we had this with Waddle a little bit, like would they even do business with you? I don't know how you feel about him, but I feel like I've been seeing for about a year now that he's not the same level of player that he was in his prime. Maybe that changed a little bit last year. So for him, same thing. Like, would you also consider him to be one of these guys that's going to be expensive both for trade and contract, or is he more of a buy low because he's not the same player?
I would buy low because he's entering the last year of his deal. So, like, what does that trade even look like? Like, are you getting a fifth for him? Like, you're not going to command anything serious with Minkah Fitzpatrick, I believe, at 29 or 30, entering the last year of his deal. And I like Minkah. I think that he's a player that if you use him in one role, he's still a really good player. Down there in Miami, he put a little bit more of the nickel spot. So if that's their idea for a nickel, have Cole Bishop be more of the safety, and then you guys go get a a deep throw guy. I think that works. But I'm not breaking the bank for Minka. I believe that you spent a high premium asset on Cole Bishop. Like we talked about earlier, I think that other safety spot, that's the position where you can try to find some good value. Whether that is a Brian Cook from the Chiefs, if you get him like on a 2-year 10, whether that is I'm trying to think of some other guys who are hitting the market. I think Buda Baker's is far too expensive. I don't for how much I love my DBs, putting a lot of assets into safeties is just not something that I think is good team building.
I think you maybe said it a little bit in there. Do you have something in mind that you think is the right type of safety that would pair with Cole Bishop?
I would love to see Cole Bishop closer to the line of scrimmage. And don't get it twisted. I think he is going to be a star. I truly do. But I think he's really good around the line of scrimmage, and I think he's just good down the field. So if you can get you a safety who has an archetype of really good ball skills, he can play the deep post, he's comfortable in space, he can tackle in space, that's the type of player I think will be really good next to a Cole Bishop if you want him to shine. Because if you're Jim Leonard and you come into this defense, you're working around so much, you want to revolve your defense around a player or two. And I think down there over there in Denver, whether it was Vance Joseph's call, whether it was Jim Leonard's call, Pat Surtain was the reason how they did everything. Listen, Pat Surtain is going to go here, and we're going to dictate it because of him. Cole Bishop, in my opinion, is the type of player where we can put him at nickel in certain game plans, put him in the box in certain game plans. So if you have a safety that can help him accentuate those traits, it will go a long way to help out the whole team.
That on the defense and how it's kind of schemed, you make an interesting point about corner there, because that style of defense, I know it's not exactly the same, but Jim Leonard talked about Rex and his defenses a little bit as well, and Rex had Revis, right? Like he had a guy that he could just leave out there and trust fully against anybody, and the Broncos had that in Surtain. How do you think the Bills will act that way with Christian Benford, or do you think it'll be a little bit different in terms of how much they trust him versus how much these similar defenses have put, like elite corners kind of on their own?
Listen, I think Christian Benford is a ball player, like top 10 corner in the world. That good brother is not Patrick Tan or Darrelle Revis. Mm-hmm. So I hope that Jim Leonard doesn't have the idea that he can play 10 on 10 like he had like Rex had with Darrelle Revis. I mean, Patrick Tan was Defensive Player of the Year. Like this is he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory type of thing. Now, can there be certain game plans and packages where we say, hey, let's play 10 on 10 and just let CB take away their wide receiver one? Sure. But I think if let's just play the math here. Let's just say in Denver they let Patrick Tan travel on 50% of the snaps, CB 30%. We'll give you the opportunity to do it in certain down and distances, but Patrick Tan is a bad boy. I mean, he's one of the top 15 best players on planet Earth.
Right. How do you feel on the overall about how the defense shifts? Like from the McDermott style that I think sounds a lot different from what they're going to be incorporating now. Like, are you a fan of the type of defense that Leonard employs and that we'll probably see the Bills use very similarly to what Denver did? Yeah, I mean, it sounds good on paper. It sounds good now. A lot more attacking, a lot more variety up front. So it's going to be put, like Jim Leonard said, puts more pressure on the quarterback pre and post snap, which I think is important. But like I tell everyone, man, like everyone's scheme looks good until the players get out there, and Sean McDermott's scheme isn't all that different than, let's just say, what they got going on down there in Houston. Houston just has two horses off the edge and an all-pro cornerback to make it look excellent. So I don't think that what Jim Leonard is doing is something revolutionary, but I do think it's fresh, it's unique, and if he can get the right body types in here and the right players, I think you can really shine with it. Because, I mean, that was ultimately the issue in Buffalo over the past X amount of years in the postseason. I don't think the schematics were wrong. They just didn't have the horses to run the style that they wanted to. So, I mean, listen, Denver's defense has been great. They also have Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, Jonathan Cooper, and Patrick Tan. So I love it on paper. Let's just see what body types they bring in here to make it work. Right. John Franklin Myers, by the way, someone that maybe the Bills will look to in free agency. Yeah, that is – the whole offseason is going to be this. I talked about this with Tim Graham the other day. Like, the whole offseason is going to be figuring out, all right, what was Sean McDermott's fault that they're trying to improve off of? And one thing that I feel like I'm starting to hear is at edge rusher specifically, why they have not had that star is because they've purposely gone for a certain type of edge rusher that fit better with the way McDermott wanted to play defense. And you often were getting these bigger, stiffer, your Rousseaus, your Epinezas that are going to be good at setting the edge and be responsible in their rush lanes versus quicker speed rushers. And I don't know, now it's sounding like, well, now we're going to do that. We couldn't with McDermott, and now we can because we have this new style of defense, which I guess I like the sound of on paper, but it also kind of sounds like you're making excuses for why you haven't had great pass rushers.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with getting, like, a bunch of pocket crushers. We just saw the Seattle Seahawks win a Super Bowl like that. Like,
right.
They don't have any demons off the edge. They just have a bunch of defensive linemen who are just putting their paws in your face and saying, I'm going to get this quarterback by any means. I just think they didn't find the higher-end pocket crushers, so then it looks worse in the postseason. Like, some example of guys who play like that. Joey Bosa in his prime, he was those guys who he wasn't dipping and running. He was just putting his paws in your chest and pushing you backwards. Jared Verse is of that ilk. You just saw DeMarcus Lawrence on the Seattle Seahawks play in that manner. I don't think there was anything inherently wrong with how Groot or how Joey Bosa or how AJ Epinesa plays. They just didn't find the higher-end players of that archetype, so it looks worse. It's no different than if you find a bunch of speed guys off the edge, but they suck in the run. Like it's kind of we all want the high-end archetype of what we want to get, what we are desiring. You just got to make sure that you get that because once again, the Broncos, they went with the smaller guys. Last year, they got ran all over in the postseason because of that. They fixed it this year by getting Drake Greenlaw, Telehon Hufanga up the middle. So you just got to make sure that if you choose one archetype, you better get the A-plus version of it, or you better help out in other areas.
Carl Jones with us on the Western Hotline. On the draft, quickly, Carl, is there any ideas or players that you're falling for a little bit with still a ways to go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, team wide receiver, that's not really a surprise. I mean,
yep.
Watch the Buckeyes my whole life, so I'll obviously tune in as Carnell Tate. Probably going to go a little too high. I will say this. I'm going to make this abundantly clear. I don't think this is the year to, like, fantasize about, like, trading up into the top 10. I think that was appropriate for the Roma Doomsday year, the Neighbors year. I don't think none of these receivers are worth giving up a future 1 for. I just don't think that's the case. For one, I don't think it's appropriate to trade up a 1 for anyone that's not a quarterback or you better be Julio Jones. But, I mean, listen, if one of these guys are still there at 18 or 19, yeah, let's make that happen, whether that is Makai Lemon, a Carnell Tate. I really like Jordan Fice in it, but I'm not a doctor. Who knows what his hamstrings look like. And then I did hear before I got on KC Concepcion, I love the way he plays with his pacing. So I haven't dove all the way in yet, but those top 4 guys have definitely got my attention.
All right, Carl Jones on the Western Hotline. Always good stuff. At Jones11 if you want to follow him on Twitter. Thanks, Carl. We'll talk soon.
Have a good one.
Carl Jones on the Western Hotline. The Bills and the rest of the league get started with free agency in a couple of weeks, and we are 2 months and 3 days, I believe, from the first round of the NFL draft.